Okay, we are now going to go on to the five-step writing process. My guess is that most students right now have a two-step writing process. So hopefully what this video will do is it will introduce you to the three steps that you are currently missing in your writing, and it will let you know the importance of those three missing steps and why you need to include them in order to write to your best ability. So in the five-step writing process, the first step is actually called the pre-write, which is kind of odd because pre means before, and so if we're talking about a writing process, um, it seems kind of interesting that the first step would be a before the writing process. But it is. You need to give thought as to what it is you're going to write about before you actually start writing. Um, and so this could be brainstorming a topic. It could be, if you are given a topic, brainstorming the angle that you want to have for that topic. It could be doing a little bit of preliminary research before you actually write on the topic. But you actually have to give thought to writing before you take your pen or pencil in hand and start writing. It's a very important process. I mean, personally, I think that it is the most important process of this entire writing scenario. But the pre-write is really important, and one that I fear most students don't do, but I hope that after you have been introduced to the writing curriculum this year, you will realize its value. Okay, the second step, I know that everyone does. If you have turned in a paper at any point in your life, you have done step number two, and step number two is to draft. You would know it as the rough draft. When you draft something, really what you're doing is you're taking the ideas that are in your head and you are just putting them down on paper. Typically, you're not worrying too much about the details. You're just trying to get it all down on paper, and you worry about that later. Unfortunately, what most students tend to do, and I'm going to skip around just a little bit here because I'm going to illustrate, hopefully, something for you in a visual manner. Most students do the rough draft. They sit down, they quickly jot down everything that is in their brain about this particular topic, and then they immediately go to step number five, which is presentation, which means that that rough draft is what they turn in. And so if at the very least what you learn this year is that it's incredibly obvious for the teacher to know when a rough draft is turned in versus when a final draft is turned in, that would be of value to you. A rough draft is just ideas, but it is very rough. Lots of rough edges that need to be smoothed out. Not ready for presentation. You actually have two more steps that you have to include there. And so step number three, which is probably the most overlooked step in the writing process, is called revision. And if you look at this word revision, you will notice that the root word is vision, and vision is sight, right? You know that. You go in to the eye doctor and you have your vision tested. It's to test your eyesight. Re means again. And so revision means to look at your paper again. And it means to look at it from a very broad perspective, from all different angles, to decide if the way you have written the paper is the best way to write the paper for its purpose. Revision usually includes great big global kinds of things. For example, do you have to totally reorganize your paper in order for it to have its greatest benefit? Or do you need to think about writing it from a different point of view? Perhaps you wrote it from third person point of view, and you need to consider writing it from first person point of view. Revision would have to do with verb tense, perhaps. Did you write it in the past tense? And maybe it would have more of an impact if you wrote it in the present tense. Revision is big global thinking, and really it requires a lot of time because you need to consider these things, to decide whether the paper you've written is the best paper or not. And my guess is the revision process is probably the most overlooked process in student writing. Hopefully it won't be after this year, but just to bring your attention to that. Now, step number 4, probably many of you are aware of this step. Now, whether you've actually done it or not, I don't know. But step number 4 would be proofread, or we would also call it the edit phase. Edit is not revision. Edit is the fine details. Edit is looking to make sure that you have consistent pronoun usage. Edit is to make sure that you don't have any run-on sentences or fragments. Edit is to make sure that you have consistent verb tense throughout. Edit is the nitty-gritty. Revision is global. Edit is nitty-gritty. And then final presentation, that is when you actually print it out and you turn it in for a grade. So that is the 5-step writing process in a nutshell. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the 6 traits of writing, and I'm going to tell you how those traits mesh with the 5-step writing process, as well as give you the details of the 6 traits of good writing.